Okay, what we have here today is a rather unusual institutional grade record player. Got this off of eBay. In fact, it was shipped from Minnesota on September the 16th. Was supposed to have made it to Mississippi on last Monday. Well, that didn't happen. You imagine that, the post office, they don't get in too big of a hurry about anything. Well, it arrived this morning, Saturday, 11 days after it was shipped. Now, in my opinion, that's unexcusable. It's not a holiday season. There's no bad weather. If UPS and FedEx can get something to its destination in 2 to 4 business days, then there's no reason why the post office can't do the same. And they wonder why they're going broke. But anyway, enough ranting about the post office. You get the idea about how I feel about them sometimes. So what we have here today is a Cokesbury 3-speed classroom record player from 1975. And yes, I've already looked under the hood and found a date stamp. But whenever I was attending the Methodist church, whenever I was a kid, I remember all of the Sunday school literature and other religious material coming from Cokesbury, and I think this record player probably came from it's the same Cokesbury that provided the literature to the church. Of course, I don't think Cokesbury actually built this. I think they had someone else build it and plaster their name on it. However, I don't think this was made by the major school record player suppliers, which would be Audiotronics, Caliphone, Newcomb, and Hamilton. You know, this just looks like it was made by another company. This drive mechanism was made by BSR. The tone arm is an static, which is pretty standard. It uses the standard 89T PowerPoint plug-in cartridge. Here are operating instructions inside the lid. They were even nice enough to give you a schematic diagram. Really appreciate that. It might come in handy. Now, let's fire this up and see what it does. Well, it sounds like we have some motor boating in the amplifier, which likely means a capacitor going south. Okay, let's see what happens. Yeah, it just barely has any audio. Which that could be a cartridge or an amp problem. Okay, I dug up another cartridge out of another record player. I don't think the tip's too good, but it's obviously stronger output.
Love and happiness.
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Something that can make you do wrong, make you do right.
Okay, we'll now open it and see if we can persuade this amplifier to work better. Okay, here's the underside. Here's our drive motor that also has a separate winding on the coil to provide about 15 volts AC to the amplifier chassis here, which uses all discrete components, no ICs. Here's our speaker right here, which isn't too bad for such a small record player. Now, Hamilton Electronics made a little black record player that looked very similar to this, only theirs was cheaper made. Theirs had a plastic tone arm and a cheap little IC-based amplifier. The thing really sounded tinny. Okay, before I start replacing capacitors, spray these controls with the control cleaner here and see if that will help matters any. Cleaning the controls didn't really help the situation any. I didn't think it would, but it's always standard procedure. Okay, I found a 2 microfarad capacitor that is not shown on the schematic, but it appears to be part of a feedback loop from the output of the amplifier back to the input stage. The capacitor seemed to check okay, but whenever I replaced it, the motor boating and other odd noises went away. So let's see what it does as far as playing a record now. Oh, I forgot that. Let's get something besides this. I don't want to use up my 30-second copyright limit on one song. Okay, here's a different record. I think our volume's louder now.
I imagine myself as a drifter, seeker of fortune.
And like so many BSR drive mechanisms, this one appears to be running a tad fast.
The impossible dream, leaving a straight life behind.
Bobby sounds a little bit high-pitched there. Okay, one thing that can cause fast speed on these BSRs is sometimes a little layer of gunk will build up on the motor capstan. Clean that off, and sometimes that will clear up the problem. Other times you can lightly sand down the capstan. You want to be real careful doing it, because if you sand too much off, well, you're finished then, because once you sand it off, you can't get it back. Another problem that these BSR mechanisms have is this shaft here that the speed change mechanism rides on. Sometimes will get dirty and will stick like this one's doing a little bit, so we'll have to clean that. And of course, lubrication of the motor is an issue with all phonographs with this type of motor. Okay, well that about does it. I cleaned the drive mechanism and it seems to be working okay now. And here we are with an LP. Here's a 78.
Lady, the Cocker Spaniel who didn't have a worry in the world until a baby came to live at my house. That's when my troubles really
Sorry, it's
began.
only a kid's record, but it's the only one I have down here right now.
Two Siamese cats. I never saw anything like them. They climbed out of their baskets, looked around.
But yep, I think we're back in business with this record player. It ought to be good to go for another 40 years.
We are Siamese, if you please. We are Siamese, if you don't please.
Okay, one thing I need to show you here is how to get the platter off of one of these and how to reinstall it. When I got this, the platter was laying loose inside of the turntable, inside of the record player. And the way you get this off is first you have to unclip the 45 RPM adapter and then remove this clip here with a small screwdriver. In order to replace it, you have to line the clip up just right. There's a little small hole in the spindle and a little small piece hanging off the side of the clip that must go into that little hole that's in the spindle in order to secure the turntable platter, as you can see here. And then once you get that done, you just clip the 45 adapter back in place. In other words, you just can't put the clip back on any old way. There's a certain way it has to go. Okay, here we are back in business, ready to go, hopefully for another few decades. Okay, thanks for watching and more to come later.